Thank you for joining us on the Music Roundtable, where we attempt to chat about all things music. We are your hosts, Kim, Clint, Lyle, and Vicky. Please sit back and get into the music groove with us.
You just come in and we're all just silent and nothing's happening.
Never usually
Which is good.
We're usually not silent.
Right?
We were both reading.
Mid-sentence.
Yes. We were reading about this
Reading
stuff.
how the 80s?
Yeah, this one is 80's music, why the styles and sounds keep making a comeback. There's a good article.
Right.
There we go.
Yep. Yeah, because,
So
we did not prepare for this at all. We're just going to wing it.
You're prepared.
Well, what are we talking about?
Hold on, because we lived through the 80s.
Oh, okay.
That's
fair.
right.
So
Technically, we're prepared.
Yes, we are prepared. It's basically
We're just refreshing our memories.
how the music scene or music changed in the 80s.
Changed in the 80s or changed and made changes to music in the world?
Well, made it easier for, I guess, our generation, the Gen Xers, to listen to music. To make it
more accessible.
So, to start off, though, we have to go back to the 70s a little bit, though. Mm-hmm.
Which we won't remember.
Well, yeah, because we don't know that part. But
well, no, we do.
We know a little bit.
We were born in the 70s. We grew up in the 80s. We appreciated music in the 90s.
Exactly.
Remember the
Yeah.
70s?
Well, that's where the big changes started happening from the 60s, because we had rock like Zeppelin.
Yep.
Disco came later, so that would be kind of the Bee Gees type thing. Right? Glam rock, which was a big thing in
the early 80s.
UK, yeah.
So that was the mid to late 70s with T-Rex, Sweet, What the Hoople. Progressive rock that started coming out. So that would be Yes, Rush, those forms. And of course the ultimate punk. So which was your, rebellion because of the whole Vietnam War.
Yeah, well,
that was coming out because you had the Summer of Love with Woodstock.
Well, that's just it. Is you had all the stuff that happened in the 60s, and then it became very anti-government or anti-establishment or whatever.
The music was much more political.
Yeah.
Well, because you had the breakup of the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The Rolling Stones kept going, but then there was a bunch of new artists that came through. Like what I was saying, and there was Elton John and Supertramp and all that. But then the 80s came.
The 80s.
And so, of course, we had the downfall of disco.
Yeah, it didn't. Did it have a very long period? Because I was going to say
it had a couple years.
I was going to say, I don't know if I would say downfall, but just that it became less popular.
Exactly.
Because it was still there.
It was.
Because ABBA had a huge...
Yeah, and the Bee Gees, and obviously the Bee Gees have carried on. They've gotten popular.
Yeah. But Bee Gees also had a career before then. They moved with it. It's just they took on the falsetto and it just it took off.
Exactly.
And
they did have a hard time when disco was ending, but then they figured it out.
That's right. But they already had an established career. Yeah. Before that, they came into it. Obviously, when you have a transition period, it is always hard for the artists. But in the 80s, they were able to
reinvent themselves
again.
And that's what...
And come back.
And what did that generation, 70s, what could they listen to? They had either 8-track.
8-track, yeah.
Or a record.
Radio.
A record.
Yeah.
They had to listen to it at home. Or they go to a
just
club.
A radio in the car, yeah.
Or you had AM radio. That was it.
Did they have any FM radio in the 70s? I don't even know.
I don't know. But lovely thing of the 80s that comes out. So unfortunately, it didn't start off so well.
Yeah.
With a couple of deaths of John Bonham and John Lennon.
Yeah,
that was the shock to basically our generation, and especially the generation that grew up with the Beatles.
Our parents.
The parents, right? And that was kind of the change, I would say.
That was probably the first. John Lennon was like one of the first ones I recognized at that age of somebody that was like really integral, and they were killed. And to put the two and two together at that young age was very interesting because you're just like, you didn't know how to feel or how to cope with it. It's definitely interesting.
And then we had a couple of artists that started in the 70s, but I think really took it to another level. Biggest name that I know is Michael Jackson.
Yep.
That was the
The
big change.
reinvention of Michael Jackson.
reinvention.
It was.
Yep.
Totally.
Like the
Because he
after the
started with a
band.
little bit of the disco. Motown, like it was all the
Motown, yeah.
R&B,
Well, a
right?
lot of it was Motown just
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
start or
So
whatever.
then he took it to another level. But from that point, what made it easier for our generation, for music-wise?
What we listened to.
MTV.
it on. Yeah, MTV
Well,
definitely did.
MTV brought it to the audience. Like, I think, once again, if you're going back a little bit, is it started out as you had, I can't remember, Ed Sullivan, and you had those shows or whatever,
Yeah.
the variety shows. So you would see artists there, you'd see that, but you never really saw the music videos or anything. It was just, okay, you could tune in and
Yeah.
you could see this audience. All of a sudden, someone like the Beatles, a UK band is all of a sudden in America, and it explained. So that's
Yeah.
going back to your explosion of Beatlemania and stuff. Obviously, now they've taken that medium further, and this is where your MTV comes out, and all of a sudden, any artist, as long as you could make some kind of visual representation of your music, any artist could literally go from a radio demographic to a national demographic.
To TV.
And
So
you're
that was
everywhere.
the visual part.
That was the visual part, yeah.
But what it made it, now we can travel around, and what did everybody have? A boombox.
Oh yeah, boombox.
So the invention of the boombox and the tape
Yeah.
deck. You
Yeah.
could record your records.
The
You
radio.
could- and the radio.
Because before it was they had little Wi-Fi stereo. Wi-Fi. What was it called?
You thinking of the 8-tracks before?
No, the radios. There was pocket radios that they used to carry around just to listen to the
Transistor-
music.
transistor
radios. Thank
yeah.
you. I couldn't remember what they're called, but that was before. That's the only thing they had
Exactly.
to carry around.
And then now,
Yeah.
I think, in my opinion,
Yeah.
I think that's where the music, with the combination of MTV, Muchmusic, boombox,
So the boombox being
Tape.
what you transported, how you transported
how
your
you
music.
transport it.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And that also started bringing in different kind of dance and pushing different kinds of music because like breakdancing,
Exactly.
right?
Oh
Huge.
my goodness, yeah.
Right? Breakdancing music was really big in the 80s because why? Everybody was carrying their music around and they were dancing wherever they wanted to.
And anybody can listen to it.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
you didn't have to go out and buy the records. You
No.
come home, record.
You shared.
Or you shared.
You shared. Yeah.
So this kind of predates all the latest streaming, because
It
that's.
does. It was a different kind of streaming.
But it was our streaming, right?
And
Oh,
the
I just bought
Yeah.
this.
I was gonna say the benefit that all came out of is the mixed tape.
Mixtape. Yes, that's another
Where
thing.
you got to cut which tracks you wanted.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
So-
you could give those tape away to
And-
your loved ones.
Well, that's just it. You could do anything with it, and it's like, oh, I love this song. The person can listen to that one, and I love this song, and the person can listen to that one, and or some of us couldn't afford Medium, so our buddy buys a new album, and you get a
You
copy
get a
of
copy.
it.
And you get a copy of it, yeah.
That was what I was going to say.
It's circulated
definitely a
faster.
way. Yeah. Another way for it to get out there.
And with much music or MTV, you could see the artist.
Yeah.
Oh, do I like them? Don't I like them?
Or what? It depends on how you,
and
the
visually.
process of it, right? Mhm.
Want to go see him in concert?
Yeah.
Well, now concert sales go up, and the shows start getting better.
Yeah, because the concert's got to be like the MTV video.
Right?
Well, yeah,
We got to
like
go see this.
I'm just like you look at Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
You look at his videos.
Yeah.
You got Beat It,
Yeah.
Thriller,
Yeah.
and Billie Jean. Without video, do you think that would have gone anywhere? Or even without the tape or the boombox?
I think without the video, it still would have.
Yeah.
It still came down in a lot of aspects, it still comes down to the music. So as long as you have the music in one form, it's going to go. If it's
But
good.
I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that the way he did the videos at the time, it was like he was telling stories. It wasn't
Yeah.
just, the band's, like Bon Jovi's videos, like doing live videos of their concerts or whatever like that. He was telling stories with his music. And I think that was
The
new
difference.
and different at the time. And that definitely helped the success, I think.
Oh, for sure.
Well, speaking of Michael Jackson, with Michael Jackson in the 80s, at that point in time, is the videos gave him that opportune time to showcase not only is he a great singer and stuff, but he was a great performer. Mm-hmm. And he got to use the videos where you could actually see his dancing. You listen on the radio, you're just going to hear, okay, it's a great voice. All of a sudden, now you got this guy, and he's doing the moonwalk, and he's doing all these.
Yeah.
He's
The
doing
first
all
time
these.
we all saw him do the moonwalk was like, oh my God.
Well, yeah, that was the Motown 25. And that set it off completely, right? Like, it was another, between that and the videos, you know what he looks like now. Mm-hmm. You know what he sounds like. Mm-hmm. Did that make you go and buy the record? Probably made me go and buy the record.
It could have, but Michael Jackson in particular, the Jacksons, right, were there before, and they were on all of those shows that had nothing to do with MTV. So I think maybe that perception of Michael Jackson, it's hard to pinpoint with that one, just because he was already there. He was already in the spotlight. He was already on TV. People already saw him before he was just Michael Jackson, right? So I think that makes it a little different, a little bit
But
skewed.
what other artists do you think that it helped? Like MTV helped? Was it the one-hit wonders?
Madonna, yeah, for sure.
Madonna was a big one.
Glass Tiger, right?
Yeah.
Any of our Canadian kind of bands, it would definitely have helped.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting thing is like, in that sense, like, yeah, Michael Jackson's already established or whatever, so propelled where but as long as someone could put a video out there, mm-hmm. and that they could be relatively unknown, but as long as they got a video out there, all of a sudden it's played, and there's always, the massive rotation and stuff. Mm-hmm. If it got played, like I said, you go from a small demographic to the national demographic. All of a sudden, so many more people are seeing them, so they may not have been the casual listener's cup of tea, but you've expanded to so many audiences, so all of a sudden now people are like, well, who is this? I got to figure out who this is. And it would expand the growth of those relatively unknown who, if it was just radio play, probably wouldn't have gone anywhere.
Oh yeah, I totally I wouldn't say love for Billy Idol, but I really enjoy Billy Idol because White Wedding was the very first video that I ever saw.
That would do it.
Yeah.
It's a really good one.
It is a good one.
I was thinking Cyndi Lauper. That's what was coming to my mind. Mm-hmm. A visual, like, compared to her music. Like, if we didn't see the actual videos and what she looked like, would she have done better or worse? Because everybody really liked her that I know of, because she was eccentric.
I was gonna say, yeah, because it was her look that
drew people in.
Exactly. Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily her music. So her music maybe wouldn't have done as well without it. So I thought is a good example of where the MTV actually would have propelled them. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it created more of a visualized our generation?
Yeah.
Like more so than...
definitely.
Yeah, we were definitely more visual.
There is one thing that was really funny is we went from the 70s. In the 70s, in our houses, everything was, the yellows,
Colorful.
the orange, the browns,
mm-hmm.
and horrific colors.
That's why we like Cyndi Lauper.
I know. And then I don't know what happened. We went into the 80s and it became
neon.
Because that's one step up. It's great. Neon was amazing.
Neon and
Right?
pastels.
Pastels. I still have neon stuff.
Me too. I still have the stuff from then.
Yeah.
Some of it.
Yeah.
We could have a whole thing about just 80s fashion people. Like, come on.
Well, what started that then? The whole 80s fashion. Was it a
music.
movie?
I think
was it a movie though?
Cyndi Lauper,
Yep.
Madonna,
Yep.
because they were like the eccentric, thank you, eccentric ones.
Yeah.
Like they
shock
definitely,
value.
yeah, exactly, the shock value, and they definitely propelled some of the fashion for sure.
And
Could have been a movie too, like Flashdance.
movies would have
or
done it
something.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like movies definitely had a hand in that, and the soundtracks of those movies.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? All of that would have a hand in it. I just think, like, the shock value, like, you wanted to look like them and listen to their music, partially because
how
of the
many
shock value.
Halloweens did I dress up as Madonna?
Oh, yeah. And like that's the thing. Even the guys were trying to dress up. Mm-hmm. You look at the New Wave. You look at the Sunset Strip.
Yeah.
Like
All the
it was
punks, all the oh my
I
gosh.
remember, several gentlemen wearing the Flock of Seagulls haircut.
yeah.
what was I going to say on that now? The funny thing, because we were talking about Madonna earlier today, and it was funny, is like, so when she came out, she was just, this, lack of better terms, kind of this punk girl and, you know, wearing whatever lingerie or whatever. And then there was a short time where, she's got a good voice. And they almost kind of gave her this wholesome image for a short time.
Very short time.
And then she went from that, and then she did her Vogue and like just totally went, you know, off the rails, as it were, and just exploded in a totally different way. But
She's definitely had a lot of different fashions. Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the 80s was all fashion.
It was.
Like, you start off, you have Culture Club, because Boy George.
And that, he was so colorful.
Right?
Yeah.
He was
Flock
very
of Seagulls, the way he was dressed up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Does that... I'm pretty sure that came from the whole glam rock of the 70s.
Yeah.
Right? Then you had, like I said, the Sunset Strip. You had, like, Poison.
Yeah.
You had Motley Crue.
And all their makeup and leather.
Their makeup and leather.
Leotards or whatever. Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, even like
The makeup,
Annie Lennox.
they were, all the guys were wearing
in
actual
Eurythmics,
makeup.
like she had a very unique
With their
look as
pants
well.
and stuff.
Yeah. Like, did it kind of... A lot of the artists of the 80s, a lot of one-hit wonders. But then you also had a lot of...
one-hit
a lot of one-hit But you also had, like, a lot of different genres, too.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big melting pot.
Because of the new wave.
Which is
Alternative
It
was
wasn't just so many, but, like, the 80s just create
Punk,
all the different genres.
contemporary.
Well, it definitely would, because like going into it, like you listen to music and it was literally, you had
Country.
Yeah, there is, you know,
Rock.
the rock, which was actually at that time was rock pop. So it was
Yeah.
really anything
Yeah.
that was kind of popular
Yeah.
into that category. Then there was your, you know, country, which was old school hoedown country music.
It was almost religious, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was, a step from
Like what?
gospel
Alabama, or the
William
old
Jennings and
Country
Willie
Boys, like all that,
Nelson,
right?
Yeah, and then you had the Motown music, and really that was that
That pretty much covered everything.
that covered it. Like
Yeah.
obviously with the classical music and stuff, but that's literally what you had. And then obviously through the 70s, like through the changes of the disco and like because we were mentioning that before, is like some of the artists, you know, came up as rock bands, but disco's the new fad, and they joined onto it. So all of a sudden you have Kiss, which was doing rock music, but they jumped onto disco, and they were actually had a disco feel to their music, just so they could kind of stay
in.
relevant and fit in.
Ride the wave, ride the
Gene
wave.
Simmons,
Yeah.
Gene Simmons, you know, great musician, great performer. It is all about the marketing for him.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Merchandising.
merchandising. And unfortunately, and then of course CDs come out too. And then now with all these new artists, of course the parental advisory stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, gotta block that wherever they could, right? So that kids couldn't listen to stuff that they didn't want them to hear. We'll do a whole other thing on that one.
But of course now we listen to it and it's like, really,
Madonna
wasn't that
falls
bad.
into that category too.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, that was the ultimate thing, because like the ultimate thing about rock and roll is the whole basis of rock and roll was
Shock value.
Anarchy. Not listening to your
Yeah.
parents.
well, punk would be more the anarchy, but still, it was against the establishment or whatever. So all of a sudden, you got this stuff. Oh my God, this is not good. Kids shouldn't listen to this. What are kids going to do? I'm buying that album.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't tell me what I can and
That's
can't
right.
listen to.
Because the parents were like, "Oh no, it's a bad influence. That music is not. It's the
Yeah, but
devil's
they said
music."
this about Elvis too.
They did.
So
They did, and they were wrong.
they were totally wrong.
It just seems like things changed from decade to decade. But did they really? They had one-hit wonders in the 60s. They've
Right.
had one-hit wonders in the 70s. They had one. Is it just because greater music scene? More,
There's more of it.
it was easier? More accessible?
It was definitely more accessible.
Catch.
Wow, that was good.
Clint just dropped his mic.
I was going to say, yeah, Clint decided to.
Just
Do a drop, mic drop.
Off his mic off the table. Yeah.
But do you think that was just the time period that was just everybody was just going for it?
Perfect storm.
perfect storm.
Everything was. It's a matter
Yeah.
of a perfect storm. Obviously, there was a lot of one-hit wonders at that point in time, because obviously at that time it was obviously A&R men that were running the music industry. So all it takes is one artist to come up with one sound,
Boom.
and all the wolves are
Yeah.
going to strike going, we got to put that out as well.
And the
Yeah.
look.
And the look.
Yeah.
That's why there was so many that looked the same or similar. But that's where we also ended up in boy bands, like boy band heaven, where it's
Right.
like they were all the same. Come on. You went with that, what do you call that? Not the cookie cutter thing, but like the ingredients or whatever. I don't know what the saying was, but you take all those and you just made a boy band and another boy band and another boy band. So it started to become easier
Well, yeah,
to
like,
make
you know,
things.
telling the difference between NSYNC and not Backstreet Boys,
Boyz II
but
Men?
not Boys II Men. New Kids on the Block.
New Kids, yeah.
Like, I always get them confused because they came out at basically the same time.
Yes.
They were 5 boys in each band.
Yeah.
It's hard to remember who was part of what sometimes.
Yeah, because there was a lot of boy bands all around the same time, and then it just kept going, right? So, I noticed that change. That was a huge change that happened then, right? Like 80s into the 90s. Not so much the singular. The singular kind of, they just copy each other as normal too, but it was the singular. I don't think it was as cookie cutter necessarily. Not all of them. Do you know what I mean? Like compared
Yeah.
to the boy bands, they still had differences.
Well, I know, like with hair metal, if you want to call it that, now, all the
Glam
bands,
rock?
glam rock, yeah,
Yeah.
they were all trying. They were similar, same style,
Yep.
and it just got to the point where, okay, we're done. Like it's no more. Like there was very saturated.
It was very saturated because there was too many.
Yeah,
Right.
like
Yeah,
I know that
AC/DC,
everybody
Queen,
was like,
Chicago, Def Leppard, Kiss, Motley
Yeah.
Crue, Bon Jovi, Quiet Riot, Scorpions, Europe.
Yeah.
Could go on and on and on.
yeah, like
Whitesnake, Cinderella. Yeah.
I heard some with Kip Winger. He was like, everybody copied Def Leppard.
Yeah.
They were like at the top, everybody was copying them. It was the same, I'm pretty sure, with Bon Jovi as well. Like that was,
Yep.
they were the most
Well, they've
successful.
always gone
They had
hand
to
in
copy
hand,
them.
those two bands. I've always
Yeah.
felt, right?
And there was a lot of one-hit wonders too that came over from England. Well, see, this is the thing. So one-hit wonder could be here,
North American one
And
hit
they could
wonder.
be
but
popular there.
they've got more songs over there,
Yeah.
right? So that was the
Yeah,
Part of the-
that's no different.
but it was part of the new wave, right?
Yeah.
It was all that new wave.
As I say, it's no different with like some of our Canadian bands and stuff like this. Is obviously similar
Huge
sounds.
here,
Similar,
yeah.
like, they'd be great here. You get them across the border, and people are like, "Who's that?" Like, what do you mean you don't know? Right?
Well, yeah, and like they all came
They'd
out
be
of
like nobody
Southern
knowing who
Ontario,
Bryan
right?
Adams is. That'd be just weird.
That would be weird. And wasn't there in that Beatles documentary they talked about the Beatles said that they were going? Who was it? Oh no, it was the
the Beach Boy one.
Boys. So the Beach Boys and the Beatles
Pushed each other
pushed each other.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
because
really interesting.
they were all testing new sounds and stuff like this, and I think it was when the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album came out. You know, Beatles heard that and like, oh
Whoa.
my god, like what
We have
is
to do
that?
something.
And that's what actually was gave birth to Sgt. Pepper album.
Yeah.
And that it like all the bands kind of work off each other, and that is one of the things. Is obviously I think we had touched. I don't know if it was while we were recording, before we were recording, we were talking about the electronic music and how that changed things. So you got the synthesizers, and you got this whole other sound that you could do things with. So all of a sudden, like this music that's in your head, you had a whole new way of bringing it out.
all experimental.
What's
Yeah.
that thing that
Yeah.
Richie uses? He used it a lot.
The voice box.
The thing in his
Yeah,
mouth.
wow,
yeah.
wow.
The wah wah.
Yeah, because it's a voice
Yeah.
box basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when he started using that,
Everybody else started using it
So
too,
you're hearing
yeah.
it everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was interesting.
Well,
So-
that's where, because what you guys were reading before, they were talking about the whammy bar, and
Oh,
so all of a sudden, that's what all the artists were doing.
doing,
if,
yeah.
if you wanted to buy a guitar at that time, you couldn't buy a guitar
The
unless you
whammy.
had the whammy bar.
And then you had some
Right.
locking system on a guitar because you don't want it to go out of tune
Yeah.
because you're using the whammy bar all the time. It was
Yeah.
the Floyd Rose that got massive after that, right? Most people used a Strat. Now it's a Kramer, like or an Ibanez at
Yeah.
that time. Like it was just, I don't know. You look at Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
As much as they say that he hated it, but he changed the way music was written, basically, for some of these bands. He changed the style.
Well, he was one of the, like, and obviously he was late 70s, but he came out and there was a lot of, in the Sunset Strip, a lot of bands there. Eddie Van Halen came on the scene and there's these guitarists. They literally kind of threw up their hands and like, oh no, like, I can't do that. And literally
Or it's like,
walked away from their instrument, never to
or
play again.
what are we going to do? Now we got to
Yeah.
learn the way he plays. And it's just, with all the different music and the way it was written and what was available, like you come out with, because of the portable stereos and what you were saying with breakdancing,
Breakdancing is huge. Yeah.
now you have rap.
Yes. It opened so many
It
different
opened up
things.
so much.
We had so many genres by the time the early 90s hit, like compared to when we were like 6. Like you'd go into the record store, there'd be 3 things to choose from. Then by the time we were, in our late teens, early 20s, it was like, where you go and go, I'm looking for this. Oh, well, it's over an alternative. We're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
Why is it over there?
That's the category that nobody fit into
Nobody
another
fit into,
category.
yeah.
We didn't know how to classify it, so we just threw it in alternative.
So pretty much
Exactly.
everything we like is an alternative. Okay, thanks. And Poison was no longer rock. It was like
Heavy metal.
I think wasn't it heavy metalish
Well,
when it
glam
came out?
rock or whatever.
Yeah, so then it was like pop or whatever. Like they changed.
Yeah,
they
they
moved
changed
them
it.
so many places. Or somebody that wasn't country or that we thought wasn't country was all of a sudden country. Like, wait a second.
Wait a minute.
What the heck? Who's making
doesn't
these
work.
decisions? Who's in charge? Who hurt you? Why
Well,
are
yeah.
you changing things?
Yeah. Well, I think so many things were going on in the 80s, like you mentioned, Lyle, that everybody just like went for it basically, because even artists that were having some success in the 70s had like a resurgence in the 80s, like David
Huge.
Bowie, like
Yeah.
Queen.
Queen, like
Aerosmith.
I was just gonna say Aerosmith.
Like, because he was huge as a solo artist.
Yeah.
Even George Michael, he started off with Wham,
Wham.
but he
And
took
then
off.
he took off as a solo artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
artist, right?
Yep.
U2 was starting to get big. Boom, they were huge now. It was, I don't know if you want to call it that, it was a lot easier for us to find the music.
It was.
It was always getting played on the radio. All
You
these
could go into
doors.
all the record stores and you could pick whatever you wanted to. Was that there before?
Well, see, okay, well, one, you got to step it back and get a second is music videos did occur in the 70s, but the only time you saw them is there was like what is a good rockin' tonight, which was like 12 o'clock midnight on a Friday night. The only time you could ever see that was the only time you could see music videos, and obviously you stayed up late and you watched them and stuff like this, but it wasn't all that big. And then all of a sudden you have this music channel dedicated to playing music videos all day,
All the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was awesome. You go, your artists were there. Obviously, it was a 4-hour loop if you watched it as much as some of us. But all of a sudden, like anything you wanted was there. And then it went off, and that's where it also branched off. So, if you liked the rap music, which was coming out at that time, you could watch the hour which had rap. Or if you liked the heavy metal, you watched the hour that had heavy metal.
It was a marketer's dream.
Oh yeah, it was fantastic for them in that sense.
Yeah, like
And
MTV just.
it's actually funny
crazy.
because it was an awesome thing. It was a great thing, and nowadays MTV still exists. I don't know if they've ever played a music video in the 2000s, but
Well,
I don't think so.
you
It's all
come
full
to
of reality shows now.
you come to now. We have streaming services.
Yeah, so it's the new videos, so to speak.
It's the
Yeah.
new way
see
to,
them.
but you can take the music wherever you want.
Yes.
That was
And
the
take
same
more.
as us. We could
Yeah.
take the music wherever we wanted. Once
We
CDs
could,
came
but
out,
we had to carry this gigantic box on our
well,
shoulders.
yeah, and then,
but
Until the
look how
Walkmans
built
came
we
out.
were.
but that's where the Sony Walkman with the
Walkmans were
disc
great.
came
Yes.
out, or tape.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could put the headphones on.
Yeah.
Nobody else hears it.
Well,
Yeah, you crank it up and everybody would hear it.
everybody heard it. We didn't have noise canceling earphones at that point.
But that was
And kids didn't understand the importance of carrying a number 2 pencil with you when you had your
Well, exactly, with the tape, you got to make sure that it was always good, right?
Let me tell you a tragic tale from my childhood.
What tape was ruined?
I don't even remember so many.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, they definitely got eaten by the Walkmans.
I
Yeah.
remember splicing, like using Scotch tape,
Yes.
splicing tape together.
Yep.
So you got a dead spot in there, but damn
At
it,
least
that
you
was
still had the tape,
that
yeah.
was my.
Well, hey, you had to put tape over so you wouldn't record over it,
That tape.
That's
tape.
right.
right? So you could.
No, you break the tabs.
Yeah, you break the, or you break
Yeah,
the tabs.
that's what it was.
You break,
You break
you
the
break the
tabs.
tabs.
Oh,
you,
yeah,
put
that's right.
you put tape over it
Right,
if you want to
wanted to
record
record
over
over
it.
Yes.
It's been a while. We can't
It
remember.
has been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while.
Younger audience
got
is
it
going,
backwards.
what the hell are they talking about?
Ask your parents, kids.
Yeah. Or your grandparents.
No, they still,
Oh, there.
Hey,
You're
hey,
not that old yet.
they still don't know how to operate a VCR.
No, they don't. They don't.
That clock is still flashing.
True story.
I was going to say, I'm going to get
80's
hell
trap.
from your parents on this one.
Technology.
How about your
yeah.
mother? She'll be upset with you.
And the other big thing was movie soundtracks.
Yes.
Huge.
Like so many movies, like Top Gun.
Top Gun was a
Footloose.
Footloose. Flashdance.
You were introduced
Yeah.
to more music, to artists that
You never wanted us to listen to.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, now you're going to pick them up.
Yeah.
Or, wow, they're part of that band. I'm going to
Yeah.
go listen to that band
Well,
because they did a duet.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. Like it was just, I don't know if it was that time period, which was, this time period was fantastic, but
Because the movies were great too.
well, I think
Yeah,
this-
Breakfast Club. Yeah.
Like,
Basically any John Hughes movie.
Yeah, I love the movies. Don't get me wrong. There is just some in there where it's like, oh my god, why did I watch this? Oh, it was
There are some that you could just like,
Mad
you'll
Max
never get
Beyond
that
the
time.
Thunderdome, which
Yeah,
I
that
watched.
was awful. You made me watch that crap recently, and it was crap.
Oh, I loved it as a kid. I don't know
great
what I was
soundtrack.
thinking.
Though. Great soundtrack.
Really great soundtrack.
It was. That was one thing I was going to go is that was the interesting thing is obviously you had movies and they were scored and stuff like this, but you actually brought in popular artists and it expanded the movies in a whole different way as well.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah.
brought him in to sell the movie, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
that was
totally.
the thing.
Like that was like James Bond. All of a sudden, you know, it was a huge success if you got invited to play a song for a James Bond movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Star
Yeah.
Wars.
And
Hello.
and it was always, you know, the top artist of that time.
Yep.
And that it's almost a time capsule really watching the James Bond movies in that sense.
It was. And
Well, it's like Ghostbusters and Back to the Future. Like that music from those movies is so iconic now, right?
It's funny you're mentioning those ones. All I'm thinking is John Williams, John Williams. John
Exactly.
Williams.
Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. If there's ever a good movie with a good soundtrack, it's probably John Williams.
well, and you think like you got Kenny Loggins who recorded two of the
Loggins was
biggest,
so
songs for soundtracks. But he had a career in the 70s,
Yes, he did.
right?
Yeah.
And some big songs in the 70s.
Yep.
But this was just another part, and it was that
It was just the ebb and flow of it, right?
and flow
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
right?
It was something that he had
Again,
to do to keep
another
going.
medium to get more music out there.
Yeah.
And those artists are awesome. Like you get these people and it's like, I got a movie, this is what it's about. And like they go away and they're gone for a couple days and they come back, well, here's your song.
Here's your song.
And it just works to the movie.
Yeah.
It does.
Like how? How did you do that?
Perfect.
Oh, yeah. And there was just so much like you had, we were talking about all the genres and all that and one hit wonders, but you had like Live Aid, you had Band-Aid, you had the song We Are the World, you had all these
Huge
artists that were
yeah.
aware of what was happening in the world, which was not something that you weren't used to,
it-
which then led to these concerts that people are putting on now, and
that
it
changed
even-
fundraising.
it changed
Oh,
fundraising.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, like there was just the 80s just seemed to have, there was just so much that happened from a stage show for these artists to, like everything that came through with all the one hit wonders to presidents to space disasters to like with the Challenger.
Yeah,
like,
that was awful.
you know, there was so much that happened in the 80s.
Well, that's just
That's
it. Like
just-
there's lots because there's AIDS and all that.
There
like,
is.
and-
It's huge. Like we've lost some artists that because of AIDS. Like
Yeah.
it was that, if you want to say sex, drugs, and rock and roll to a T, was the 80s.
That was the 80s. Yeah.
And
Listen to Steel Panther. That's
but there's just so much that happened. Like I know we've just kind of hit the
Scratched
tip
the
of the ice.
surface,
Like
yeah.
there was just so much
There was a lot
that
of-
changed from the 70s.
Yeah.
See, people
Through
are going
the
to go onto our
80s.
Facebook page and go, 80s lovers.
Yes,
But that's
we are.
But that's our generation.
It
Yeah.
is our generation.
That's when we discovered music.
yes.
We
Yeah.
That's
discovered
what changed us.
the concerts.
I'm sorry, I'm still a
Much
child of
music,
the
MTV.
We are, but we
I like
didn't
70s
have-
music, but it's always been the 80s. That's been the decade that
that's where we
spoke.
grew up and had most of the sounds.
exposure to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like-
and even the 90s, because in the 90s we were in our 20s. So
Yeah.
like that was a huge influence on us as well. But 70s music still was an influence on us. So was like older.
I was going to say, and I
generations,
remember
but-
listening to like 50s and 60s music too.
Yeah. Yeah, for
and
sure.
liking a lot of it as well. But yeah, it's my go-to has always been 80s music.
Yeah.
It's just,
It just
that was
it's
only
who I am.
Was it
That's right.
the 80s, what, 20 years ago? Or
Oh my
no,
gosh,
more
something
like
like
40
that,
years
yeah.
ago.
Wow, dude.
But, and
Like,
we
the
still
only
talk
person
about it
that-
40 years later.
Yeah.
They do. They talk about so many things about the 80s, the fashion, everything. Like there's so many. The price of houses.
But even the fashion's coming back now.
Oh yeah, it's always doing.
Like
Okay,
it's
see,
just
that's funny. You mentioned the house prices. I'm sorry. You mentioned the house prices. Like obviously, looking it back at it now, house
Yeah.
prices is amazing. But they had like 19% interest rates back then.
Yeah.
That's
and they
true.
survived.
They survived, but the 19%, as I've tried to explain many times to my parents, even with that percentage, because they were both trade workers, they had trades, so they made more money than the normal Joe. You were still better off then than we are now,
Yeah.
because it's so out of whack compared to the wages and the price of housing.
Yeah.
Theirs was more in line. Even with 18%, they were still better off. That's sad to say. Sorry, sidetracked. On to the music.
but it was all part of the 80s
It was part of the
Was.
80s. Yeah.
because that influenced what the music was. Do you want to have like a song that is just a fun song? The lyrics don't mean anything, or do you want to, like, you have Bon Jovi, "Living on Prayer," or do you want to listen to Def Leppard, "Pour Some Sugar on Me"? Something that's fun, or it's actual truth. Like that's what they were going through in New Jersey at the time.
Yeah.
It's what people were
That's a
writing
tough
about.
decision. No.
But no, it's true though. Like, do you
It's
want to have
true,
something
yeah.
that doesn't? Do you want to listen to the
When
new
push
wave?
comes to shove, yeah.
But do you want to listen to the new wave? Do you want to listen to stuff like that?
Yeah.
But that had a big influence on the writing and what people.
What was going on in the world and
Yeah.
Well, sorry, you're funny because you're going, oh, Pour Some Sugar on Me. It's just a fun song and stuff like this. I'm going, hey, and I know you've listened to the album. Think about that same album, Gods of War. We're talking about Americans and having their finger on the button. Like,
Yeah. Exactly.
like it's a very political album. If
It's
you actually,
very, but you have that fun song. You have that, or do you want to listen to something serious, or do you want to listen to a song about a relationship, or something
Yeah.
that somebody's going through, like, or a Phil
was
Collins in the air
something-
tonight
something
that
for
he just kind of
everybody
came.
out
There was
Yeah.
in the 80s.
Yep.
Yeah.
You had something.
So many
for-
choices.
And that's what it was about.
It
Yes.
was.
It was like a better Woodstock. I
She
said
said
it.
it. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I'm just like, be careful there because obviously there was the original Woodstock, which was awesome. And then
Yes.
they tried to redo the Woodstock twice.
Yeah, but
and
we don't talk about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was not awesome.
It was not awesome.
No. I'm just saying in the sense that you look how eclectic and how the people that did do Woodstock, and then you look at the 80s. That's what I mean. It's like it's a better Woodstock in the sense that you had more choices.
Yes.
Yeah, there were
right?
more
And they were
artists.
still good.
Yeah.
They were all good, right? And you just had that
Yeah.
little amount, and they were still good.
Even the one-hit wonders.
Yeah.
But there's just so many artists that came out.
So many.
So many. Like, Poison.
And I was like
Motley Crue, you had all these
scrolling through the
Cutting
list
Crew,
as it
whatever,
went through
right?
like North America and Europe and Asia and Australia, and I'm just like, oh yeah, oh that person, oh yeah. And I'm just like overwhelmed almost with the amount of artists that either came out or had a resurgence in the 80s, and it's just, I don't know if we haven't seen anything like that since.
No.
No, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, we haven't, like, because obviously, it was going from what was originally a medium where you heard it on the radio. You know, if you were lucky, you got to go to the clubs where it was playing or whatever. But it was very isolated to exploding onto the visual medium and being everywhere. So that, has done it. I think we have had similar explosions in the sense that we have YouTube now. So there's a lot of artists that may not have actually ever gone anywhere. They've gotten their 10 seconds of fame. Some have stayed a little too long. Justin Bieber.
Right there with you, man.
I think that's kind of the same idea. It's just obviously to the artists that we had in the 80s. One of them, they probably had a longer career behind them before they exploded. So there was that back catalog and they built on it. So some literally had the building blocks to sustain a career, whereas some of the artists, they would come out on YouTube now. I find people are not as devoted,
Skilled.
No, I'm talking. I'm working on the fans. Like, so somebody would come out now and, oh my God, he's awesome, and they could have a huge following.
And then 5 minutes later,
and 5 minutes later, people have blinked and they've gone on, and that person's never able to build on that success or whatever. Where at least on the 80s, because I think they had those building blocks behind them, there was a career behind them, and we gravitated, we kind of grasped onto those artists of those times and stuck with them. Like, we're still going to Def Leppard shows, we're still going to Bon Jovi shows if he ever comes back.
Okay. So glomming on, just going with what you're saying there, does that have anything to do with the fact that we were latchkey kids? We had nobody at home. We had no supervision. Everything was to ourselves, for ourselves, fend for yourself. So
feed yourself,
but listen to what you want, do what you want.
Just don't bother me.
Yeah. Really.
So was it
go away for 5 hours at a time?
Right. Go outside. Don't pay attention. So did that affect what we listened to, how we listened to it, or was that music there for us because nobody else was?
I think so.
Oh,
that's a good point.
I totally believe that. Like, music was my escape. Music was my world.
Was your world?
And
yeah.
Was
it your savior? Like,
it was
mentally, right?
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm a picture of sanity.
Hey now.
If only you guys could see him.
Aw, he's pretty cute.
Music was definitely there for us. I don't think it's for the generation nowadays. I don't think music holds the same way. But that's also the way the people are nowadays.
Yeah, and it all depends on the person too, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. It was what we grew up in.
Yeah.
That caused that to be that way.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be the same for children now. It wouldn't be the same. It wasn't the same for our children, right? They listened to that music because we did, and they picked their own music because we were very much a musical household. But not everybody is in a musical household, and has
those
parents.
people are just wrong.
We call those people. No, okay, no, nice words. So because of that, they did grow up differently. They look at music differently. So kids now, if you go talk to a 12-year-old, their world is completely different. Like at 12, you had a key. You even 9. You had a key. You were walking home from the bus. You went inside.
Depends if you had an older sibling. The older sibling had a key, or if you didn't have a key,
you went in through the window.
How to break into the house.
That's right. Heck yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Broke into the house numerous times. Yeah. So
climb a tree, patio door.
Scooch the window.
Unfortunately, it was the kitchen window. Being the smallest child, guess who gets to jump in?
Oh yeah, usually. But that was the way it was. So that's why I'm saying that music was there for us.
Yes.
And built us. Like, it built this city.
Yeah.
On rock and roll.
There you go.
Wow, there's some
Well, I was
cheese
just thinking,
there.
like, when you were talking about YouTube artists and stuff like that, I almost wonder if we actually had more tools at our disposal to be able to get the music out there. Not that there's not, like, streaming and, like, all of these apps and stuff like that now, but it's basically radio, let's say, like with the streaming and whatever. Yeah, you have YouTube where you can go and watch videos, but it's not, like, in your face like it was with us, like you said with MTV and stuff like that. It was all music videos all the time, kind of thing. So you could flip on the TV at any point and see whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas now you have to actually go hunting
Physically
for it.
Yeah, look for it. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
So
different.
like I said, I almost wonder if, like, and to your point, like, we were left to our own devices for the most part, pretty much as kids.
Yeah.
So it's like I said, it seems like when you look at it, it's almost harder for people to access music now than it was when we were growing up.
Because they have to actually make an effort to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
that
and-
makes
and
sense.
so-
Oh yeah, because I remember coming home and just putting on Watch Music, and
Yeah.
that's
There
it.
you go.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely different the way it does. It's also because the music industry has changed. So when we were growing up, obviously, Much Music was there, and so you had the record companies behind there, and they would find all these people and literally saturate it out there.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's YouTube, and if you're lucky on YouTube, you get the likes and stuff like this, and then a record company kind of, we gotta propel on this, but it's everywhere because they've got like the American Idols and stuff like this, where anybody can kind of get out there and try to be something, but there isn't as many, we'll say, record executives pushing it. It's kind of like,
Marketing and-
okay, you're shiny right now, I'll get you here, okay, you faded this one, and they move on to the next one really, really fast.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. It's like the attention span is so much shorter than
Yeah.
Yeah.
now than when we grew up as well, I feel.
Yeah.
On a lot of things, but
Absolutely.
particularly music.
Yeah. Because there's too much. It's
It's the instant-
oversaturated.
yeah, and
In a different
the
way.
instant gratification
Yeah.
culture that exists now. I
Anybody
think.
can be a star. Yeah. You just have to be on one of those.
Have a
reality
podcast.
show. Or be on a reality show, or have your own like YouTube or
Yeah.
Instagram, and like
Actually, I kind of forgot about like American Idol and The Voice and all that stuff. but-
all of those things,
Yeah.
right? You're having artists come up. You're having artists come up that already had a following, going onto those shows to get more of a following because they probably are dipping in their numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to get that thing to go back up, and that's the only way they can do it, right? So I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like I find like I've seen a lot of different people singing on Instagram or Facebook, and they'll be like, they're really good, I really like them, so you follow them for a while, and then after a while you're just like, so
Yeah.
it is totally different now.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's not the same.
it's not.
No, they didn't get the same joy.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I
that
think
we
to your
had.
point, Clint, that it was, like marketing has a lot to do with it too.
Yeah.
Like it seems like now people are just kind of like on their own to try to get themselves out there.
Yeah.
Whereas before, like you mentioned, you had the record companies and everything like that behind you to kind of help push you out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like some of the bands back then, it was a lot of knocking on doors and dropping off tapes and stuff like this. And your hope was just to have that one friend at the radio to play your tape, just so a record executive going, wait, people are calling in, people are listening. We need to cash in on that
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's always a money making business and stuff like this. But if they can make money, they'll put money behind it to make it go. Nowadays, like I said, same thing. They see the YouTube stars and they'll do it, but it's so fickle now that you're great. Okay, there's no
And then you're
contract
not.
with you.
Yeah.
You're gone. On to the next one.
Yeah.
And that artist is like literally head spinning, going like, "What just happened to me?"
Yeah,
You're over. That's
you're
what
not
happened.
producing.
Yeah.
You're done.
That's right.
Yeah.
Whereas in the 80s, you had that chance. You had a couple albums. Okay, you better start now.
Yeah.
And
So you
enough,
won't
it was-
see. Yeah. That's
Sure enough, the third album, they're starting to sell.
So yeah, you won't see the longevity that we did.
No.
That's even
No,
our
for
parents,
sure.
I don't think so.
You know,
Like
generation that had
some will,
longevity.
but yeah, there just isn't that building blocks or even that industry behind it to support it the same way.
Yeah, we have a couple of bands now that will probably carry on, but not like they did
No.
that we had in the
And
80s.
it doesn't help that
We're not going to have
you know,
50-year careers.
Exactly. Yeah.
we're talking about the 80s, and we're still going and seeing 80s bands.
Because they're still
Because
going.
they're
and
still
still
going.
going.
Well,
Exactly.
no, I know
Yeah.
they're still going, and it's kind of funny because I started thinking about that as with some of the shows that we got coming up. Is these artists will never get to retire because we always want to see their shows.
Exactly.
Pretty much.
Yeah. As
Pretty
long
much.
as they're out there, we will come see you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But
But they have the following. And
They do
their
have the following,
has
like-
kept going, whereas the other ones, it's not really the same.
Yeah.
yeah.
No,
might not work.
it is completely different. And one, someone can be a YouTube star, but have you ever actually performed on a live stage? It's great to sit in your room and strum a guitar.
Yeah.
You have a great
That's
song,
true.
but can you do that in front of
So many thousands of people.
Yeah.
hundreds of people or hecklers or
Yeah.
there is a whole difference between putting something editing
Sitting in
it
front
and
of your
putting out
camera
something perfect on a video and actually physically being out on stage where everything goes wrong when you don't expect it to.
Good point.
Yep.
Yep.
Like I've seen
The School of Hard Knocks,
when
there
you
you go.
I can't remember the one was it the Ocean you guys played and all of a sudden half the speakers went out
Yeah.
and the
Yeah. You have to
pivot.
pretty much. Pretty much. Pivot.
Shut up.
Sorry, friends moment.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't get that, then yeah. So
You should have covered that in the 90s one.
we'll get there.
See, obviously we'll get to it at that one, but 90s have changed music yet again.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we'll cover
We'll get that one.
Yeah.
We'll cover
Later.
that in the
Yeah.
90s. Well,
Now,
Now,
when we talk about the 90s.
Talk
That-
about
that
the
works.
90s.
Yeah.
yes.
You look
Yeah.
I'm not a drug user and I'm not having flashbacks.
Yes,
But
it's
yeah.
a deja vu.
Just having OLD.
I am having a lot of OLD now.
Yeah. So I think that's the way the 80s music changed.
That's our entrance into the 80s music.
This
Yeah.
is basically the entrance into 80s. Well,
Wait a
I
minute,
guess
haven't
future
we
80s.
been mostly talking about 80s music anyway?
Pretty much.
For the most part, we're just, I guess we're delving into the
But this
more
one's going to be
technical
the.
side.
This is how 80s kind of changed in the landscape of music and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the explosions that came out, and then we get to
the way you got to
And then,
Then
and
we'll
then
start
delve
into-
into
then we get to
deep-
explore
do
all
deep
these
dives
wonderful
into
wonderful
different
things we
artists.
like and some of the things we don't like, and
So on and so
will
forth.
probably eventually get into the 90s too at one point while we're talking about these 80s bands too. So
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
well, it's
for
us.
sure.
I go everywhere.
Yeah, we will
Let's
be
talk
going
about the
everywhere.
80s. Back in the 60s.
we will be going everywhere.
Well, y'all are used to this too if you've been listening so far that we go off on all kinds of tangents every
Yeah.
single time anyway.
Oh, look,
so.
a squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have ADHD.
Oh,
look, a squirrel. That's right. Yeah.
Yes.
Topic us? No.
Yeah, no.
No.
But on
We
that
tried, but,
note,
yeah.
We're good. We're done.
we're good. So we're
Yeah.
going to we will be exploring some of the topics that were brought up on this. So it's going to be pretty interesting talking
gonna be
about
fun.
the 80s.
As I
It'll
was
be
going to say, well, continue with that. But as we also, any topics that our Facebook fan base will throw at us, we'll delve into at some point in time.
Exactly. Yeah, we will.
I can't even-
Your suggestions are not going unheard. We just haven't got there
They
yet.
get laughed at sometimes. No.
We're
But we
always
will get there.
we're
We'll get
always
there.
willing to talk about something, even if we don't know it.
Yeah,
We will
absolutely.
do some research on it, and we will talk about it.
That's the fun thing.
because at the end of the day, do we really know what we're talking about at all?
No,
Yes.
we know
do
what
we?
we're talking
Yes.
about.
Yeah, we know what we're talking about.
That's right.
we know what we're talking about.
I don't. I just talk.
Oh my gosh. All right. I
Yes.
think we need to feed him.
Yes.
All right.
Alrighty. Well, thank you.
Thanks. Catch you on the B-side.
Thank you for joining us on the Music Roundtable. Please like and comment where you listen to the podcast, and make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter, and let us know what you'd like us to talk about. Until next time.